Hey everyone, Sparks again with another video about basic topics in Dissidia Opera Omnia. With the new weapon era coming soon, I thought I'd make a video quickly going over the two new weapon tiers, LD and Burst. With the intro out of the way, let's get into it. So, up until now, there have been three weapons that have been deemed necessary to get when building any unit: the 15 CP, the 35 CP, and the 70 CP, more commonly referred to as the EX. Once the so-called Burst era starts, there'll be two new weapons you can get via banners: the LD and the Burst. Every character will be getting an LD, while protagonists and antagonists will be getting bursts. Since this feature will be launching soon in Global, I'll be using footage from the Japanese version of the game, unlike the rest of my videos, so apologies for not having the clearest footage. LDs are the far more important weapon to pull, and offer a variety of benefits that make the character feel more complete or more dynamic. Broadly speaking, LDs serve to either add something to a character via unique buff or effect, or make up for something they didn't have in their EX+. For example, Squall's LD will actually give him his solitary lion buff as well as a new unique effect, which his EX+ did not provide. Shantato's LD will extend her Rage Mode unique effect as well as apply a framed paralyze and defense debuff onto the enemies. Others, such as the upcoming Amitatelian LD, will battery the party and straight up delete the next turn of all enemies, which falls in line with their moveset as a whole, which includes the enemy speed control and single target turn deletion. Like all normal 5-star weapons, you can use either duplicates or power stones to give limit breaks to LD weapons, and similar to EX weapons, each limit break adds certain effects. Each one adds either a stat boost or an aura, along with extra effects such as longer durations or another use count. Looking at Squall's LD again as an example, each limit break will raise attack. One limit break boosts damage of the LD cast. 2 limit breaks extends his unique buff duration and grants him starting buffs, which, again, neither his EX+ nor his character board did this, and 3 limit breaks adds another use count and grants access to HP and Brave 2+ variants. You heard me say use counts, and yes, LDs have use counts similar to your base skills. The average starting amount seems to be 2, with some having 3, and an extra use seems to be one of the limit breaks on every single LD. This may not seem like a lot, but there are a few things to consider. 1. The buffs these LDs give are generally pretty long. The base duration of Squall's LD effect is 8 turns. 2 limit breaks doubles this to 16 turns. Unless you're choosing to burst down a fight, you're not going to be using an LD very often. 2. LDs are not affected by things that give free skill usages. However, they have been shown to help out your normal skill rotation either via skill regen or free casts. 3. LD casts do add to your EX recast gauge the same approximate amount as normal skill usages, so using an LD to set up buffs will help out your normal rotation, creating a sense of play that feels more impactful, for lack of a better term. As you'd imagine, LD skills can be used by friend units with no issue. Stat-wise, LD weapons are technically considered weaker than EX+ weapons. As such, the general play is to max limit break them for the passive, equip it, and then still wield the EX+ weapon. There is one exception to this, but even without it, it means LDs are safe to sell. There eventually will be an additional path to character boards that holds an extension passive for the LD, furthering their performance and also reinforcing that, yes, LD weapons are safe to sell once you have the passive from it. The one exception to not equipping the EX+ is if you get the Burst weapon. As I stated earlier, Burst weapons are only going to be given to protagonists and antagonists. At this time, we don't really know how broad or focused that definition is, but Ramza has received a burst and Tactics isn't a numbered Final Fantasy game, but that doesn't really say much for secondary protagonists such as Zack and Sarah. Unlike the other weapons, burst weapons do not need to be limit broken in any way, they just need to be leveled up and equipped. The burst skill, once used, starts a burst phase, which is 6 actions for just that one unit. Their abilities are all given one use, their EX gets charged, and the summon is silent so you can't just extend it. With very rare exceptions, buff timers and such do not count down during a burst phase, so any battery or regen effects coming from party members via a unique effect or something of the sort have extra utility during a burst phase. The other units cannot act, but they will participate in a launch if the turn order is correct. Any EX or LD effects that grant a free skill or skill regen will still apply during burst phase, such as Noctis EX or Lightning EX. On the 6th action in burst phase, you do the burst finisher, a wonderfully cinematic attack, and then after that, you're sent back into the fight normally, where only one turn has technically been counted. For some amount of actions, the burst user will apply a burst field effect in the same vein as an additional ability. These effects vary from increased damage dealt, to allowing the party to break Brave and HP damage cap, to even straight up enemy turn deletion. Like I mentioned earlier, you cannot use summon during a burst phase, and vice versa, you cannot use a burst phase during a summon. If you choose a friend unit that has a burst equipped, they'll only do the finisher, but their burst field effect will still apply and will fully stack with any of your own as long as it's a burst from a different character. So the burst weapon sounds great and all, right? And it is. But as mentioned earlier, the real price of banners are the LD weapons. 6 actions of just that one unit is powerful, but it's not like you can finish high difficulty fights in just those 6 actions. In terms of how LD and burst weapons are added into banners, 2 bursts are added every month, giving you a chance to get one character's burst across 4 separate banners. However, since the LD is the new main draw for building a unit, that does necessitate pulling on the banner that the LD is on, as only recently in Japan have older LDs started being rerun. Both LDs and bursts can be pitied, with LDs sharing the same 15 pull mercy as EX weapons, but burst weapons upping that to 25 pulls to mercy, but the G tokens themselves are still banner specific. While there is a permanent EX shop, there is no place else to redeem LD weapons, at least not yet. There is a burst weapon shop that will let you redeem 1 burst weapon for 50 burst tokens, acquirable through Chaos level full synergy challenge quests and through the premium tier Mog Pass, as well as by selling burst weapons you come across. LD weapons only sell for power stones. That should cover everything you need to know about LD and burst weapons. The short of it is, if you want to use any unit that gets an LD moving forward in the game for high level content, you want their LD along with of course the rest of their kit. Treat the burst as a nice bonus if you happen to get it, but don't necessarily aim for it unless you're dead set on a pity. LDs, in my opinion, make the game a fair bit more interesting, and will start coming into form later on when they release call abilities and LD extensions, but that's for another video. Hopefully you enjoyed this quick overview on the new weapons coming to Opera Omnia Global, and if you want to see more videos like it, be sure to subscribe and stick around. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.